Welcome to the Career Change Podcast, where you'll discover the frank and practical advice and resources that are already proven to work in the real world when it comes to changing careers or figuring out what business is right for you when you are a smart but likely also stuck, overwhelmed, or overthinking person in your mid-30s, your 40s, your mid-50s. I'm your host, Rikke, Hansen, a career change advisor, entrepreneur, and former corporate HR professional with over 15 years experience of helping thousands of people just like you identify or create careers or businesses that are both meaningful and future-proof. Welcome home. Hey, it's Rikke here. Welcome to episode 18 of the Career Change Podcast. Let's talk about overthinking. That nasty, debilitating tendency to overthink everything to death, where you get caught in thought loops and you just keep overthinking all of the reasons why starting your own business might not work out, or why it's a crazy, risky idea, or where you keep overthinking your career change options and you keep wondering which one of them is right for you, but for some crazy reason, you can't think your way through to an answer. How about you? Do you overthink too? Do you spend a lot of time in thought loops and endless ruminations? And interestingly, you still haven't changed careers, or you still haven't started your own business? You're still stuck in that job or work scenario you likely also overthink about. If you can relate to that, my friend, then I want to dedicate this episode to you. I see you and I understand. Actually, as a matter of fact, I know exactly what's going on. You know, making a big change, especially if you're over 35, making a big change in your career can seem really intimidating, especially if you work really hard to get to where you are today in your career, even if you no longer enjoy it. Because here's what's really happening. One of the most effective ways that intelligent people, they sabotage and procrastinate on their career change or business efforts, it's literally to overthink everything to death and to actually never get out of their own head. Why? Because it feels safer to overthink than it does to decide, or that it does to take action. So if that's you, please listen in, because in this particular episode, I want to introduce you to two highly practical and powerful prompts or tools that you can use next time you get into one of those overthinking loops, so you can stop it and you can do something much more concrete and useful and powerful instead. That's what I want for you. That's why I started your Career Change Podcast. That's the Career Change Podcast. That's really what all of this is about. Let's go from vague and unhelpful to powerful and concrete. Right? Now, if I'm already inside of your head now, and if you're a frequent listener, you know this happens a lot. I know what happens inside your head, so you likely feel like I'm there right now. So let me tell you something else that might also apply to you. You haven't just become an overthinker just because you're considering changing careers or starting a new business. You have probably been paid and trained to be an overthinker for years, in your current profession or by your family. As a career change advisor over the last 15 years, a lot of my clients have come from corporate environments where they are literally paid to overthink, paid to identify worst case scenarios and areas where something might not work out or probably won't work out. And that's why they've done so well in their careers so far. Those careers I no longer enjoy, because that was what was rewarded. However, it's precisely when you apply that kind of overthinking, bordering on paranoid mindset and learned behavior to your career transition that you sabotage it, right? Being intelligent is a blessing, but overthinking can really be a curse. Have you noticed? Here's what I've noticed as a consistent pattern over the last 15 years as a career change advisor. For a lot of people, the majority of smart people who do not end up making a career change, or who end up not starting their own business, and who would otherwise have loved to, they don't, because of this debilitating behavior. It's because their transition never gets any further than their own head, where they overthink and try to find enough reasons why something might not work out, or they stay there in their head because they don't feel like they have enough information, or it's not perfect enough, or it's not the right thing, or not all of their ducks are lined up in a row, so they don't feel like they can yet take action or decide. Can you relate? If so, just feel free to insert your own not good enough and not perfect enough and not ready enough and not enough here, right? One of my clients inside of my online career change program, your career change map, she literally said to me initially, she said, Rikke, I feel like my head is a slaughterhouse of dreams. Nothing ever gets alive out of there. Can you relate to that as well? Now, here's what I told her. And this changed everything for her. And it's also what I want to share with you today because I know how powerful it is when you discover this. So let's get really practical. There are two very concrete tools that can get you out of overthinking right away and that I really want you to consider using. Instead of choosing to overthink, you can choose to either A, make a concrete decision, no matter how small, just think micro here, or B, taking a concrete action, like run an experiment, do something, no matter how small. So next time you are inclined to overthink, ask yourself this. What is the one decision I can make right now that is going to allow me to move forward? Or what is the one action I can take right now to get more clarity on this issue? How can you experiment? How can you get out of your head and take action and experience who you really are? Because that does not happen inside your own head, right? So let me repeat that because those two questions are super powerful. Write them down, okay? Tattoo them. What is the one decision I can make right now that is going to allow me to move forward? And again, think micro, just small, the smallest possible decision. Or what is the one action I can take right now to get more clarity on this issue? And again, it doesn't have to be a big, crazy action. It can just be a small action, a small experiment. That's what I want you to think about. Changing careers or starting a new business is a result of loads of small actions and loads of small decisions made over time consistently. So it therefore follows that unless you become very good at taking action on a regular basis, consistent regular basis, and unless you become very good at making decisions on a regular, consistent basis, your transition will not happen. Just think about that for a moment. That is what at stake here. This is why I'm recording this episode, because it is so bloody important. Here's what I notice as well. A lot of smart people, they have this idea that at some stage they're going to get to this kind of fork in the road moment where there's like one action or one decision they have to make and that's it. It doesn't work like that. It's one decision at a time, one action at a time, over time. So don't delay. Start making decisions and start taking action. If you are not in the habit of experimenting and taking small decisions on a regular basis, that's why you're stuck, and that is why your transition hasn't happened yet. This is so key. Every single one of my programs, I literally bake decision-making and action taken in from the very beginning, because that is how career change works. Everything else is just like you staying stuck in your head. And this is also really helpful, by the way, if you are the overwhelmer type who keep getting torn in all kinds of different directions. So people tend to be overthinkers or overwhelmers, and sometimes there's a lovely double whammy of being someone who's both overthinking and overwhelming, whereas actions and decisions are highly concrete. Here's what I want you to do, you smart, intelligent person. And you might want to, again, write this down on a Post-it note, tattoo it. Stop overthinking and start deciding and doing. And yes, it's very much going to feel totally abnormal for you to do these kind of things, to actually stop overthinking and start deciding and doing, especially if you are a lawyer, a finance person, an IT person, or pretty much anyone who's paid to identify mistakes and faults and risks, and who's paid to look into why something might not work out. I totally get how hard this is. This is why you've likely spent the last 10, 15, 20 years plus overthinking and catastrophizing at work. Please don't be like that when it comes to your career transition. All right? I really, really want you to get this because it's so important, because that is what will get you unstuck. Now, here's some great questions that can help you get out of your head, help you decide, help you take action. So one great question you can ask yourself next time you get into that kind of overthinking loop, once the slaughterhouse starts going on, you can ask yourself, what action can I take right now? Right? What's actually a concrete action you can take right now? So often, and this was especially something you might have noticed over the last couple of years with pandemic, with massive issues, there's actually always something that you can do that's within your control. Especially, there are a lot of things that now, think about how much of our life now happens online, right? So for a lot of my clients, it might have been things that happened in their life and suddenly they felt like they couldn't do anything. But there are a lot of things that you can do online. How can you test drive something? How can you offer something? One of my clients had lined up loads of in-person presentation and coffee meetings. And then, as an example, COVID hit. What we decided to do was to rearrange all of that and for her to actually design online presentations that she could offer to these potential clients that were big corporates in people's lunch break. And she could actually reach a lot more people that way via the internet. So you might just want to rethink that no matter what's happening in the world, there's always something that you actually can do. All right? Same thing, another question, who can you connect with? If you've been in the same profession, which a lot of my clients have for most of their adult life, let's say you've been finance, IT, law, marketing, whatever it is you've been in for your entire life, part of changing careers and starting a business is an identity shift. If you only ever hang out with people like yourself, that's going to be really hard because you don't experience yourself with other people and you don't learn about yourself experientially, which is really the only way to figure out who you really are. So you need to start having experiences around other people unlike yourself in those new industries. So think about, instead of getting stuck in overthinking, oh, would I like this? Would I do this? Well, start hanging out. Again, whether that's online or offline with people in those industries you want to move into. You know that I keep banging on about the importance of building a really solid network of new friends in the new area you want to move into. One of the great things that actually happened post-COVID is how much networking has actually moved online and how many industries that used to really have closed doors kind of conferences and events, that's now been opened up to the public and it's available online, which is ideal, especially for introverts and even for extroverts like me. So think about that. Use your time wisely. A third thing you can ask yourself is, what decision can I make right now? What decision can I make right now? Let me give you an example. This episode was inspired by a lot of emails that I get when people were like, oh, I don't know what I want, or, oh, I'm stuck, or I keep overthinking. One decision that you likely can make right now, and this was asked by someone just recently, is often, as an example, you can always make decisions. What I see often, people are stuck because they're in really cushy careers or well-paid jobs, like comfortable kind of pain. So what they do when it comes to their career change, they make this list of all of these boxes that this new career or business has to tick. And until it literally ticks all of those boxes, they're not going to budge. Now, all of those boxes of must-haves, or what people think are must-haves in order to change careers or start a business, let me challenge you on that one. You need to make decision as to all of those must-have requirements. Which one of them matter more than others? Because not all elements matter equally for anyone. You need to start making decisions potentially about which ones are non-negotiables and which ones are not, because you're potentially stuck right now because you are refusing to decide on all of these must-have criteria. So you're staying stuck because you're insisting on only changing careers or starting a business if you get all of this, and that potentially you have in your current industry because you've been there for so many years. So there are always decisions you can make that would really help you get more clarity, that will help you move on. So just think about that. That's an example of probably a lot of you listening, you have that issue. So start making decisions. Here's the thing, decisions are a vital part of the career change process. You need to decide throughout the entire process. You don't just backlog it and then at one stage it gets to this massive one decision. It doesn't work like that. You need to make decisions literally from the very start. Your career transition will only take place once you get out of your head and into the real world, one decision at a time, one action at a time. And also remember, if you're an overthinker, let me appeal to the intelligence in you. If all you're doing is overthinking, then all you're doing is making the same assumptions again and again and again. All they are his assumptions. You need to move to the real live feedback stage, and you should want to, right? Now, you might be sitting there right now thinking, yeah, Rikke, this is all very well, but how do I know what an action is or what a decision is? Good question. Let me give you a very straight answer. An action or a decision is highly concrete. Overthinking is never concrete. Let me say that again. An action or decision is highly concrete. Overthinking is never concrete. So an action is reaching out to someone, meeting someone, going and attending something somewhere as an example, whether that's off or online, is very, very concrete. And in the career change process, it's very often an experiment, right? You're just testing something out. Ideally, something that involves other people. Now, decisions have a clear before and after. Decisions are all about getting out of that cloudy, overwhelming, vague tendency and into specifics and concretes. The root word for decision actually is all about cutting off certain things, or from the medieval term, slay. So did you actually cut off certain options, certain things, decided certain things were less important, more important, right? There's a clear before and after. And you'll be amazed, if you haven't yet had the experience, you'll be amazed at how good it feels to experience making decisions and taking actions, because clarity comes through actions and decisions one at a time. And you gotta start now. It's so important. It doesn't happen down the line. It starts now. If you're at the stage where you would love to join a program where you can get help figuring out what your best career change options, what your best business options are, and a program that's specifically designed for dealing with these overthinking, overwhelming tendencies, then do come over to thecareerchangepodcast.com and inquire about your career change map, because this is really where all of this is baked in. It can be very hard to do by yourself. Now is really the time to stop overthinking and start deciding and start doing. It's really the most empowering thing you can actually do. Overthinking, and I'm sure if you're really honest with yourself, you'd agree, overthinking never really feels empowering. I want you to feel empowered. So let's get really concrete. Again, what is one decision you can make right now? And what's one action you can take right now? That is the most empowering thing that you can do. So get curious. That's really what I want to leave you with when it comes to, I think for the majority of the overthinkers I've helped get out of their own heads, what I really asked them to tap into was just curiosity. Get curious about who you could also be, who you really are. And that's really the fastest way to get over yourself and get out of your head. Just get curious about yourself. I'm right there with you. I'll see you in the next episode of the Career Change Podcast and over at thecareerchangepodcast.com. Thank you.